Hello, everyone. How's it going? Last and final part of today's session, or at least for this whole tech stream of deploying JS applications on cloud. And this is the part where we actually deployed on our first platform. So, part one, we built the backend. Part two, we built the front end, then copied everything locally so that you have it. Because from here, we push it to GitHub, and then from there we push it on Railway, right? What was Railway? We had a quick discussion about it in our last session about Railway being a platform where you can kind of deploy your backend and front end. Plus, at the same time, Railway is, since a platform as a service, it's going to give us this one click deploy functionality in a way with some additional configurations and settings here and there. And yeah, so we are back for the final part, and I hope you all enjoy this one and you just see the power of cloud deployments. Okay. So I am going to go away from screen so you can solely focus on that, because I also realize that it is too small. And let me open Twitch on the other screen so that I can keep an eye on any messages that are coming. Okay, once again, welcome everyone. So before going on our break, or towards the end of like session 2, what we did was we took all the code that we had on Replit and copied it locally, and we are running it locally, right? So now the next bit is to basically focus on pushing it to GitHub. So let me go on to my GitHub and let me create a new repository. Ignore the photo and stuff. So I'm going to click on new to create a new repository, and I am going to name it as GHW MLH Cloud Week 2024. Okay, and it's going to be public repository. Uh, not going to add git ignore or anything, no license or anything, because everything would be defined in my repository. So I think, yeah, this should be good enough. And I'm going to create a new repository. Now I am going to click on this HTTPS part, and we have an existing repository which we want to push from command line. So we need to follow these 3 steps. So let's go back. Let's clear anything that we have here. I'm going to do git init. Okay. And secondly, as you can see, like, interesting. .env, yeah, should not be highlighted. So .env is not highlighted, which means it's not going to be pushed. Node modules is not highlighted, that is not going to be pushed. But source and everything else should get pushed, right? So that's there. Now I think I said this before, that I want to push it to another of my repositories, so I will need to configure my git. So let me take that away from screen, because, well, that requires configuring the email and stuff. So git config, let me quickly do that, and I'll be back. Okay. uh Cool. I think this should be it. So I've configured my Git to use this account that I have. Uh, okay. So next step would be to actually add everything. So I can kind of do something like git add dot Then I can do a git commit, and inside the commit I can do what I have written here. So like dash m, then feat, that is a feature, and this is initial commit, and then double inverted closed, hit enter. So that should add the git add git commit. Now if I go back to this, I need to do the add origin. Okay, so I'm going to copy this line, I'm going to come here, paste that, and hit enter. So that should add the reference to the remote repository. Like from my local, it should push to this one. Now I can do this git branch dash m main, and then git push dash u origin main. This should push it to, okay. Okay, interesting. I was not able to push it because of my, I think, configuration, but you should be. So if anyone is able to push it, you can just put it on chat. Meanwhile, let me quickly fix this again. This is very annoying sometimes, unfortunately. I did test it just before this, and that time I was able to push it. So I have no idea why it's not allowing me to push it now. Okay, finally. I think this is done. So I have successfully pushed it. So if I go here and reload this, yep, there we go. Took some time for my configuration to work, and but at the end of it, I was able to. So this is the repository with all the code that we have written locally pushed. Should not have my env files, but everything else should be present. And there's a question, is it on defang? No. Okay, so now let's go to Railway. And what I want to do is create a new repository, then click on deploy from GitHub repo. But I don't want to give it all my GitHub repos. So I'm going to choose one of it, only selected repositories. And this was GHW dash MLH Cloud Week 2024, right? GHW MLH Cloud Week 2024. Yep. And that's the only permission that I'm going to give, and install and authorize. So now, okay, it comes back here, but then I have to choose this thing. Uh, do I need to add variables? On which platform are you hosting this? This is on Railway. So we are hosting it on Railway. You have to log in and attach your GitHub account to get $5 free credit, which should be good enough for us today. Now we do need to add variables. uh, because, well, we had the env variables, if you remember. So the first variable that we had in for, let's do it one by one. First, let's do the backend one. So I'm going to take that particular variable name, and then I am going to take the value, copy that, put it right here, click on add. Then we had another variable of port, right? So I'm going to click on new variable port, and the value would be 5001. Add that as well. So that's those two added. They should be secret. Like normally I wouldn't show it to you, but because I am going to delete it later, so it's okay. Uh, then let's go to settings. Now, if you remember, or if like in the same repository, we have two different folders. There's a backend folder, there's a front end folder, which means that Railway cannot understand what we want to deploy. So we need to tell it that, hey, this is kind of a mono repo. Okay, this is one repository with two different code bases, two different projects in a way. So we need to go over to our Railway, go to settings, then we have to add a root directory. So we have to say that go inside the backend folder and tick this. It gives you this apply three changes, deploy, and you click on deploy. Now let's go to our deployments. It says it's initializing, it's building. So we can go over and check the build logs. Okay. So let's see, it's building it. And okay, the build has been successful. Let's see deploy logs. Anything here? Doesn't seem like it's still deploying. So we can wait for a couple of seconds and let's see what happens. If we get any error, we need to fix those errors, of course. If we don't get any error, well, that's well and good. Okay, starting container. There's something, and the server is running on port 5001, which is really nice. So if I close this build log, go into my settings, it's up and running. But this is private networking. This is what you can use to communicate with the railway internally. So like another app here, they can communicate together internally by this private networking. But we need to generate a public network so that anyone can open it. So that has been generated. It's, you can see there's a default port of 5001 because that's what we set up in our environment variable of port. And if I open this, hi GHW. So, well, that's good for us because if I go to slash API slash books, yep, there is the one book that's been added, like that was added. So our backend has been successfully deployed. Okay. We can go back and we can go into this observability part where you can give it like start with a simple dashboard and it will tell you, oh, this is the error that happened when you started deploying, currently not using anything. If you go into the logs, good logs here, there's one error, 6 info and everything. So we have successfully deployed our backend and that is done. Okay, now let's create a front end, and that is kind of tricky, but we will work through it. So you click on GitHub repo, you click on this option, and it's called like it took some time, but it opened, and it's spectacular joy. Don't know what that is, but we need to add one environment variable in front end as well, which is the wheat base API URL, right? So new variable wheat base API URL. And what should be the value? Well, we know that our backend is running on this particular endpoint. Okay. So that should be the value of our backend. So I can put that here. Extra slash can be removed and I can add that. What else? Excuse me. So what else? We have added the base API URL. Also in our local, we can add that for production. Not really needed, but good to have, I feel. Uh, in our settings, we have to do the same thing of adding the root directory. Now this time it would be slash front end. Okay, and it also needs a few more things. It needs the build command, like what should we use to build our project. Now if you go over to your package JSON, there is a build command. So to run this, you have to do npm run build. Okay, and I think that should be it. So after these changes, like there are 7 changes that are pending, I am going to click on deploy. We can change the name of it later, like spectacular joy. Let's see how joyful it is going to be. So if I go over to deployments, it says failed. And why failed? No start command could be found. Okay, let me close this deploy logs, go over to settings, and start command. Custom start command is here. So npm run start, but we don't have a start like npm run start. We have a dev. So I can say npm run dev and then apply this. So now it's starting again. Let's see. Build logs opening. Okay, it's doing something. Okay, it's building for production. Something is happening. Okay, so build time 11.19 seconds. So the build has been done, I think. Successfully built. Yeah. Let's go over to deploy and let's wait for this. Okay, starting container, and okay, so seems like it's done. So let me close this and let's go over to our settings, and we need to generate a domain. Spectacular joy production something something, and it's empty. Interesting. If I do port 5173, because that's the port it is currently working on. Okay, so server failed to respond. Now, this happened when I was, of course, testing this, that it says the build has been successful, it has been deployed, it's working, up and running apparently, but you cannot see anything. Okay, it says that not like nothing has been found. So I realized that there are a few changes that need to be done, and I like checked the documentation of railway and I found it. Okay, I found the changes that we need to do. So I will show you the changes that are supposed to be done here. uh, Let me find the documentation of this. Give me a second. Railway. Okay, so this is the template that we kind of have to use, because so what's happening here, like let me explain that. Let me come back on screen. So what's happening, so Vite is a dev server, but we need a server which can take the static files that are generated. Let me show you the static files that get generated when we run the npm run build. Okay, oops, wrong place. Cd into front end folder, and then npm run build. So when it does this, it creates this dist folder, and inside this there is a single index.html, and there's this assets folder which has all the JavaScript code that we wrote, but it's minified. And there's the CSS, which has all the CSS that we wrote, which is like one file only in one, like in index.css. Okay. So we have this build command, it generates these static files, you can say, and we need a server to serve these static files. And the best server, eh, at least that's recommended by Railway, is to use Caddy. Okay, and there is like relevant documentation, but ideally this is the template that we need to use, and it requires a few additions to our repository, in our front end repository. Number one, it needs this nixpacks.toml file where we define some configuration of Caddy. Then it needs this Caddy file where it has all the configuration of, serve from dist folder, and like run the builds and stuff. So that's there. And yeah, I think that should be it. These are the two things that we need to add in our front end folder for it to get for it to deploy on Railway properly. So I am going to just copy paste this here in the chat, and what we are going to do is just copy paste this in our code. So I'm going to copy this file, copy raw file, come to our front end folder, and right here we need to create a caddy file, it was called. Paste this caddy file, yeah, and then nixpacks.toml. Okay, so yeah, going back, so that was caddy file. The next one is nixpacks.toml. So what is nix? It is kind of a thing that Railway introduced. They have this nix pack, and it's like really nice. Yep. So it was introduced by Railway, and it's also used by Replit actually. So if you go to this replit.nix, you can kind of define an environment. That's what Nix helps you to do that, like helps you to do. And you can see the language support. It is like huge. So you have these environment variables that are available in Nix. You can define that, and like, you can do a bunch of things. So really nice. Not going to go into details of it. So nixpacks.toml file I've created, but I need to paste all this inside here. And that should be it. I'll also make one change, or do I really? Okay, leave it. So let's try this. So cd dot dot, and I'm going to do git add all, git commit dash m feature add caddy file, and then just git push. Okay, so that should have pushed it. So if I go over to my repository, reload it, yep, there's the caddy file added. So now let's go over to our Railway application. And since we pushed to GitHub, it actually started building. Okay, so on push, it is going to build again, which is nice. Let's see if the deployment is successful. So we'll wait for the deployment to happen. Could take some time. And even last time it was deployed successfully, but it just failed to, work. Okay, it says deploying. Okay, it's still deploying. And let's see. I think we would need to use this host property, but we can check that. So if I go to settings, we have this application failed to respond. Okay, let's wait for it. So deployment successful and everything, but it still fails to respond. Application fails to respond. And okay, so one more thing that I had tested, like our backend still works, our front end is a problem. So one more thing that I had tested was to actually, oops, am I not audible? Hello? Anyone? Interesting. Am I audible? Oh, am I audible now? Check one, two, three. Okay, perfect. So if I now go to deploy logs, we see this network part, which was not there previously. So I think that should do the trick. Let's go to settings, spectacular joy, give us some spectacular joy, and there it is. Okay. So remember the changes that we had to do. We had to, on Vite config, we had to change this to host true. Uh, Also added this start command, which I'm not too sure, like 100% sure. Dev should work, I feel. Uh, we had to add this caddy file, and we also had to add this nix packs. So you can like try it out and let me know if all of them are required or just a few should be fine. So add books work. Let's try adding a book. So Sherlock Holmes, uh, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, add book. That should refresh and it's working. Let's see where is the request going. So if I click on get books, it's going to railway.app, okay, slash API slash books. If I want to delete the ID to delete book, well, that should work. And yep, that's happening. Delete is happening, no content. And I'm not going to delete database right now, but there we go. We have successfully deployed our application on Railway. Any questions, anyone? Let me come back on screen. Any questions, anyone? So for deployment on Railway, we had to make a bunch of changes for front end. Okay, the backend works fine. The front end, the backend works fine. We just had to add the path to our backend folder, and that was it. For front end, we had to add the path to front end, add the build command, which was like custom build command npm run build, the start command npm run start, and that's it. If I go over to observability, we can see some errors right here. If I go over to logs, some logs about some stuff failing, and this is coming from the console log. Okay, so GHW console log. We had left some console logs here and there. So that is why it's showing us like whenever a user does something, we can get a log of it. So if a user interacts with our application, we can get a log. We can add more console logs, which will be helpful. But other than that, here is our front end. Okay. So once again, any questions, anyone? We have deployed it on Railway, which is platform as a service. Okay. We didn't have to do too much configuration, minimal, bare minimal, except for front end. Which I'm still not sure. I feel like without the caddy file and stuff, it should happen. Or maybe let me try it without the caddy file. Think could happen. Or should I like leave it? Okay, I will leave it. I'll leave it on to you uh to like kind of fix that, like figure it out or try it out, experiment with it. For now, this is what runs. Sorry, I'm late. What is DB? So our database is still the database that we got from Replit. Okay, our Replit database is the one that we are using, which like we can get it from our Replit project. So this is where we did that, and that was available from here. Once we complete the deployment to the second one, which is OVH Cloud, maybe and if we have time, we can look into adding our own database as well. But for the timing, or I can like give you an idea of how you should do it. But for the timing, this is good enough. And what is delete DB? It is going to clear the database. So if I go over here, if I click on delete database, that's empty. Our database is empty. So now I have to start again and like again, add new books again. So like let's say here, title, Hercule Poirot, author is Agatha Christie, add book, and there we go. Okay. Cool. So that's it. Now, oh, quick summary. Sure, I can give that. So what have we done? Is it storing in local storage? No, it's actually storing in a database that has been provided by Replit, which exists here. Okay. Easy to use key value store, suitable for blah blah blah. So this is what we are using. It's a key value Replit storage. And no, it's not storing in local storage. It's kind of like Redis, kind of being the keyword here, or you can say it's kind of like a dictionary, but provided by Replit. Okay, so we have nothing to do with it. Instead of this, you could use, like, let's say MongoDB, to use it, like any cloud database you can use. So you can think of Replit right now as a cloud database. But other than this, you can use MongoDB as another cloud database if you want. Redis has a cloud database. You can use that if you, as well. Uh, I can't remember any SQL cloud database, unfortunately. Let me check. SQL based cloud database, cloud based SQL database. Okay, so there's Google Cloud, Azure SQL, and Heroku, Postgres, Redis, MongoDB Atlas. That is no SQL. Uh, Oracle Cloud Free Tier is another cloud database that you can use. Google Sheets as a database, of course. So you have like a few recommendations here that you could use, or we can create our own database and store the data there. So if you go over to Railway, if we I find that, and you go over to create, you can create a database. So you can create a PostgreSQL or Redis or MongoDB or MySQL databases, add that to your project and reference that. Okay, but that would require us changing our server code a bit so that it can interact with one of these databases. And right now my focus is on deployment, and that is why I'm not going to do that. And a quick overview of what have we achieved in these 2.5 sessions. We started by building a backend on Replit, okay, which is a book library. We built a bunch of endpoints of adding a new book, getting all books, getting a single book, updating a book, deleting a book, and deleting the database. Then we created a front end using Vite and React and JavaScript and ran that. It was working fine, created bunch of components. Then we copied over everything that we had on Replit to our local. Okay, created server.js, package.json, installed a bunch of things, created these .env files, which has our secrets, which I keep showing to everyone for some reason. But yeah, it's secret. So we created that. Then on the front end side, we created, like, we copied over stuff. We created a Vite front end. Then we deleted anything that we did not require. We copied over the code that we had written on Replit. Then we pushed it to a GitHub repository. Once the push was done, then we actually created an account on Railway. Railway is a deployment platform which gives us a, a platform actually to deploy our code. We deployed our backend, we deployed our front end. For the front end, we had to make some changes, make like add some additional configuration and stuff so that Railway could understand that we are trying to deploy a front end application. But once that was done, this is where we ended. Okay, backend working, front end working, everything is nice. Okay, cool. So, well, that out of our way, let's look into, now this was like Railway is platform as a service. Okay, we did not have to configure anything. We did not need to install our own operating system. Railway has installed it itself, maybe like Ubuntu or something. We did not have to install Node.js. We did not have to install uh, a server or anything. Everything was available on Railway. We had to reference it at some places, like by adding a caddy file, we say that, oh, install caddy and use that to run my front end. That's okay, right? Similarly for like, yeah, so that's what happened. Like everything was kind of pre-installed. We had to just change a few configuration and that's done. So that is good thing about Railway platform as a service. But what if I don't want that? What if I want to install my own things? I want to install my operating system on a machine. So think of it as a bare bones laptop, or desktop, or whatever you call it, bare bones CPU. And on that, you want to install your own operating system. You want to install the different libraries or applications that would be needed, like let's say Node.js or Nginx for proxying, uh, the logs and the observability. Wow, that is such a tough word to say. So this all comes packed with Railway. But what if I want to add mine? Okay, my personal ones. Like I want to add Prometheus. I want to add Grafana. How do I do that? And Node.js is not a very good server, so there's an alternative called as PM2, Process Manager 2. I think it's the full form. So what if I want to add that? So we need a VPS, okay, a virtual private server. And a free one that I found for this session specifically was OVH Cloud. Now, I'm not too sure if it is free in every region. Like, I'm not sure if it would be free in US or India or any Asian other countries. It is free in the UK. Okay, so that is why I am going to go with that. For their public cloud, they give you some credit, which is good enough for today's session, good enough for at least a month actually. So like this is huge for working on it for 1 month. So can anyone who's following along open OVH Cloud and tell me if it is available for free? If it's not, that's okay. Uh, I have the free credits, so I can show it to you how to do it on OVH Cloud. But it would be unfortunate if you can't do it. Also, to get this free credit, you would require a debit card or credit card. You have to add a debit card or credit card, unfortunately, but required for verification, kind of. So anyone who's following along who's not in Europe, can they try it out and let me know? Okay, it's not free. Uh Let me see if I go over to. Oh, it says free. Credits worth 18,000 rupees. At least that's what it shows me. Uh, but I'm again could be wrong. Okay, if it is showing free, that is really nice. So what you have to do, like let's go get into it. You have to click on this. You have to create an account. This should be the link for opening in India. This should be the link for opening in UK. And let me share the link for opening in US. And apparently it's not free. Oh, there is $200 USD for US. So for me, I'm going to create an account in the UK. I already have an account. I don't want to create another. And of course, I don't want to add my credit card again. So all you have to do is click on try free and enter your details, create an account. Once you have created an account, you have to go over to public cloud part and get the free credits. It will ask you for either PayPal account, or it will ask you for a credit card or debit card. It does not charge. At least it did not charge for me. I'm not too sure about other regions, but it did not charge me. It just verified that this is a real human who's trying to sign up to OVH Cloud and not a bot. So that is why they are asking for credit cards. Uh, so once you give them your credit card or debit card info, again, it did not charge me. and you get the $175 or 18,000 rupees or 200 US dollars, 175 pounds, sorry, and 200 US dollars credit free. Once you have all of that, then let me show you what you have to do. But first, let me log in actually. So I'm going to log in. Also, let me see. Hopefully, I'm not doxing myself. Uh, I forgot to add some background music. Yeah, good enough. Uh, yeah, I need to log in. Sorry. OVH Cloud login. Okay, two-factor authentication. And I need to find my phone. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So now if I open, so it will create a new project for you by default. This is the free credits that I receive, which is good enough until 7th of October, which is good enough for me, at least from today's session. So if everyone has reached this point, like please give me a shout and then we can move ahead. And it's okay if you haven't, as such, like the video will always be there on YouTube for you to see. Shout. Okay, that's so good. uh, so let's move on. So what do we need to do? So we need to create an instance. Okay, now instance is basically like saying that I want a operating system, I want a machine. Okay, sorry, an instance is like saying that I want a machine. So all these machines are available. So you have general purpose ones, which have like 8 GB RAM, 50 GB NVMe storage, and good enough like connections and stuff. I'm going to go for the Discovery because I found that was the cheapest. Uh, okay, at least like from the perspective of it gives me 2 GB RAM, which is good enough. Like for our application, even 512 MB RAM was good enough that Railway offered, right? So 2 GB is good enough. So I'm going to choose that. Next, now choose the region which is closest to you. For me, it would be London. That would be closest to me. So that's done. This image is basically saying which operating system do you want to install. I'm going to go with Ubuntu, but in that I'm going to go with Ubuntu 22.04. Okay, that's done. Now we need to add a SSH key. Now what is this SSH key? Now SSH key is like saying that I want to access this machine that we are creating from my local computer. So I need to add a kind of an authentication, you can say, a password authentication. So let me go away from screen so you can like focus on this. So yeah, we need to kind of add a authentication mechanism, And one way is SSH keys. So SSH key is broken into two parts. There is a public key, there is a private key. A public key is the one that you will basically put on OVH Cloud. Okay. And every time you want to log in, public key, private key. Yeah, public key. Every time you want to log in, and the private key will be stored on your computer. So every time you try to log in, it will take the private key and it will do some uh, like checking on it, and it will say that, oh yeah, this is the person who added the public key, so we will allow this person to log in. So we are going to click on, like, you should have something like this. You can give it any name. I'm going to say UTGHW Cloud Week SSH. Okay, UTGHW SSH and the key. So for the key, we need to generate it locally. So I am going to go over here. Let me like make this small. Increase the size of my my command lines. Zoom in a bit more. And okay, like we can actually generate it on any path. The path does not matter because we'll store it in root. So what do we need to do? So that's going to be kind of simple, kind of tricky, but we can figure it out, I feel. So step one, if you go here, it says that SSH keys will be required. Your SSH key will be available for all regions and OVH data centers. Only RSA and ECDSA SSH keys are accepted. You cannot use this particular ED25519. Okay. So let's create a SSH key. So on your local, you will have something like SSH-keygen. At least on Mac, it comes kind of pre-installed. On Windows, you could use PuTTY, PUTTY. I had generate SSH key Windows. I mean, somehow you should be able to figure it out. Optional features, open SSH client, SSH keygen. Okay, so this is how you can enable SSH keygen on Windows. Okay, so I am going to share that, but I'm pretty sure you can find new like options. And yeah, good guide for sure. So now SSH keygen, but we need to generate a RSA key. So you tell it the type. -T says define the type. The type is RSA, and -B basically defines the size. So -B 4096. I think it's bytes or bits, one of them. I think bits probably, or bytes. But that generates the key. Now it asks where do you want to save the key and what should be the name of it, kind of. So I will say that I want it to be stored wherever it is saying. So that is .ssh/ now the name that I want to give it would be like, could be anything. You can call it anything that you want, but so that there's no confusion, there's less confusion, or whatever you call it. Let me close a bunch of these things. I'm going to call it ut-ghw-ssh SSH ut -ghw-ssh -rsa. Okay, any passphrase? No passphrase. Same passphrase again, nothing. And that's done. Okay, so the SSH key has been generated, and the identification or the private key has been saved on this path with this name, and the public key has been saved on this path with this name. Now I want to copy my public key, like I have to copy my public key and put it right here. So in Mac you could do pb dash, and in Windows also you could do something. So OVH actually has a guide on how to do it, like how to copy your public key without showing it to everyone else. Uh, Public key added to the cloud instance, private key stored on your local device, and this is how you can create. So you could do cat and this to kind of show the whole thing, or in Mac OS you could do pb copy or pb paste. In Windows you could use this more option that should open it. So I am going to share this link in the chat. And so this is the command that I'm going to run. So let me close all this, close all this. I'm going to create a z.txt here so that I can show it to you all. So pb copy. The only difference is that instead of this id underscore rsa.pub or public, it would be this thing. Okay. So I'm going to do Control C here, and I'm going to come here and paste this, hit enter. So this has copied the public key on my clipboard. Okay. I mean, that's what it should have done. So if I go here and paste it, yes, there it is. Okay. The public key has been kind of copied and pasted. So now if I click on add key, that should add it. Yes, that's done. So the SSH key has been added. There's one more thing. Now SSH key has been added, which is nice, but it will still kind of, I think, cause one problem later, which is you have to do something so that it understands that it's us. But let's see when we come to that problem. So we have added a SSH key. Click on next. Configure your instance. I only want one instance, and I want the name to be like GHW Cloud week instance. So GHW Cloud week instance. I don't want to enable backup because I'm going to delete it at the end of session. No post installation script or anything. So just next. Configure your network. Now I don't want it to be private, I want it to be public. So once we deploy things, it should be public and easily available to everyone, or like at least visible to you all. Okay, so I'm going to choose public, and the billing period, I can go with hourly in this case, because after few hours I'm going to delete it, like after 2 hours or something. So once you have done that, that should be it. Actually, it will take some time and it will create a new instance. Okay, it's being created. So let's wait for a couple of seconds. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, should have been created. Now, if I go in this cloud instance, you can actually see the IP address. Okay, and you can see the login information. So to log into this machine that we have created, the Ubuntu machine, we need to do this. We need to do SSH, then the name of the machine, which is Ubuntu, @ this particular IP address. Now, if I copy this IP address, go over and paste it, ideally it should be empty. There should be nothing here because, well, we haven't installed anything. There's no app running, nothing. Okay, so that's why it's taking so much time to load. But in general, that's empty. So now we need to log into our system. So let's go over to our terminal. I can expand this. Okay, clear everything that's there, and let's paste that thing and hit enter. Now it says that the authenticity of this cannot be established. This is the fingerprint key is not known by other names. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? uh Ideally I would say yes. Okay, but I think, remember I said that you have to make some changes. uh so I'm going to cancel that, and we need to add run a command which is copy id. Okay, I think that's what we would need to do. At least I had to do it once or twice. So let me share that command. What was the name of our SSH key? uh okay, I forgot. I think there's a way to check the list of SSH keys. You could do something like this, and that should give you a list of SSH keys. I have a lot of them, but I think this was the one that we recently created. Yes, 8 September. So now what I need to do is I need to add that and the IP address of our machine, that is this thing. So I need to add that as well. And this is what I end up with. So this is what you need to do, where, oh, there it was. So SSH copy ID, and then you have to add it to your Ubuntu. I think this is kind of needed, or at least I had to do it when I was experimenting. Please make sure that you change the name to whatever you created. Okay, and change the IP address to whatever is your IP address. So everything else remains the same. The UTGHW SSH-RSA should change to whatever is the name of your SSH key. The Ubuntu at 51.89.230.239, that should change to whatever is the IP address of your machine. Okay. So if I do this, oh, you don't need the SSH part here. Sorry. Oh, probably not required. Sorry. So let me share the new command. Unfortunately, I can't delete the old one, but this is what I did, but it seems like it was not required. Okay. But in general, let's try to log in to the system. So I'm going to take this, copy this, SSH into it, and there we go. We are currently in our system. Okay, so welcome to this Ubuntu, blah blah blah, and as you can see, it has the name of whatever we gave our instance name, Ubuntu GHW. So let me clear this, and you can see on the top, this is what we have. If I do ls, nothing. Okay, present working directory is home/ubuntu. So we have logged in to our machine, which is really nice. Now let's install a bunch of softwares on our machine. Okay, so the first thing that we will do is sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y. So what is this? So sudo apt update, it basically updates the list of softwares that are available. Okay, so it does not install anything, it does not upgrade anything. So the name is kind of misleading. It only updates the list of softwares that are available. And it also updates the version numbers. So if there's like node with version 20, 22, 24, it updates the list that it has internally stored, but it does not download node 22, 24 or anything. And the sudo apt upgrade, whatever has been previously installed, you can like, it upgrades all of that. So let's say I can kind of check what has been installed by doing apt list dash dash installed, and it tells me like these are the libraries that are already installed. So python 3 seems like already installed, there's openssl already installed, and bunch of other things. Okay, these are the libraries that are already installed, but we want to update and upgrade before we move ahead, because we don't know when OVH updated their ubuntu version and the libraries that are inside it. So we will do sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade dash y. Sudo means you are the admin user or root user, and dash y means yes to every question that it is going to ask later. So if I hit enter, it will go like, oh, blah blah blah, installing this, downloading this, and as you can see, it says it's installing this Jammy security updates, Ubuntu security updates, and bunch of other things. Not everything would be installed or upgraded. Some of them are already on its like latest version and stuff, so that's okay. Okay, if this is done and you get the screen that I am getting, so how do you, well, like what should you do? So you need to use the space bar to like select, and I realized that it doesn't do anything as such. It does not install like restart everything. Also, to choose OK, you have to press tab, okay, tab key, and that then hit enter to like choose. So like restarting, it does this restart, and then somewhere it says failed, but no containers need to be restarted, nothing, and it comes back to whatever it was. So something happens, not sure what, but we have updated all the pre-installed apps that were there. We have upgraded them, and now let's install Node 20. Okay, so how do you install that? So I will do curl dash f small s capital S L, and then we will install it from, oh, let me like clear this so that it's on the top. Okay, so now it should be visible to everyone on screen. This is the max size that I can go. Okay, so what are we going to do? We are going to say that do this curl request, which is like a tool that is used to download data. Dash f is fail silently. So dash fs fail silently, silent mode, it will not show any progress or anything. Capital S is to show any error, and capital L is to follow any redirections. Sorry, I forgot to unhighlight this. Okay, so this, and where are we going to download the node package from? So I'm going to download it from this thing, deb.nodestores.com slash setup underscore 20.x. So any version of which is node 20, like I only care about the major version, I don't care about the minor version or the patch version. It should be node 20. And then you do sudo, also the pipe dash e, then bash space dash. So what does this mean? So download the node version 20 from this URL. To download it, we are using curl, and this L basically means that if it is not available on here and it gives you a redirection that go to deb.mynewnodessource.com, follow that redirection and download from there. Then whatever is the output of this, the pipe says take the output from the left hand side, pass it to the right hand side. Okay. And I missed something, pretty sure. Oh, it's not base, it's bash. You're going to use bash to install. Yeah. And hit enter, and that should be it. Let me share the command in the chat. So once that is done, it should say that repository configured successfully. To install Node.js, you have to run this thing. You can also use NSolid runtime as a Node.js alternative. So NSolid is a company which basically makes enterprise version of Node.js. So it has more security features. It is less prone to bugs or anything, but it's also paid. Okay, the free version is very limited. So I'm happy with Node.js for the time being, frankly. Okay, so now we can do sudo apt install -y node.js. Okay, hit enter, and that should say like the new packages will be installed, 0 upgraded, 1 newly installed, which is node.js. So that should install node.js, and that's it. Okay, now if I run that apt list thing, there should be node.js in this somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Node.js uh, 20.17.0. And a easier way to check what is my node version is node space -v. So 20.17.0. npm must also have been installed. So npm -v is 10.8.2. Okay, now we should, okay, let me also share this. So this is what I ran, the command that I ran to install Node.js. The first command downloaded Node.js. The second command is going to install it. Then we will install a library/tool called as build essential. So sudo apt install -y build-essential. So this is a library or a package that includes like so many other libraries inside it, uh, which is helpful sometimes, not always, but sometimes yes, it's needed. So it will it would be good because later on, if you want to install any pnpm library which needs to be compiled, okay, if let's say it's written in C and there is a JS package over it, you can use, like, having build essential will be nicer because it can help you uh, kind of, what do you call, compile that package. Okay, so let me also share that. It's helpful. That's all I'm saying. Like, good to have. It's a good to have thing. Okay. The next thing that we want to install is actually called PM2. Okay. So what is PM2? So PM2 is a production process manager for Node.js with a built-in load balancer. So it will keep your applications alive and reload them without any downtime. So it's similar to what NodeMon was doing. Like anytime we make a change, it used to reload the whole server again. Okay. So something very similar to that. The only difference is this is more of a production thing. So we will not use NodeMon in production. We are going to use PM2 in production. So we need to install this, and the best way to do it is install it globally actually. So let's go to our this Ubuntu. Uh, so we can do like sudo npm install -g pm2. So globally installing pm2 for basically reloading Node.js anytime there's any error or crash or anything. Okay. And apparently we also have a new version of npm available. I really just downloaded ubuntu, just downloaded node, and that did not have this. So okay, ignoring that, uh, what else do we need to install? Okay, let me share the command for this in the chat. I know we are installing a bunch of things, but I hope I am making sense of what and why. And then I think, at least for now, finally, if we are going to install one last thing, which is nginx. Okay, so sudo apt-get install nginx space -y. This should install nginx. So why are we installing nginx? Now nginx, if you know, is kind of a reverse proxy thing, and we are installing it because, if you remember, like when we ran our whole code for front end, we needed a server to serve our static file. That was caddy. Okay, but here we are going to, like, on our own system, on our own machine, we are going to use nginx for serving our static files. Okay, so I'm going to clear this, and let's get to the next bit, which is to actually clone our repository and then do things inside that. So I'm going to go over to my repo that has nearly everything that I need, https, and I'm going to copy this URL, come back here and write git clone, paste that. So there, it has downloaded my repository. Now if I cd into what is it, GHW Cloud week, and I ls, there is a backend folder, there's the frontend folder. So we need to install everything inside the backend folder, right? So I'm going to do cd into the backend folder, and I am going to say npm install, or npm I short for short. Okay, so you have to clone the repository that you have pushed to GitHub. This is where I pushed it. Please clone yours. Then you cd into, like, if you are following the same structure that I have followed, then you know that there's a backend folder, there's a frontend folder. Cd into the backend folder, then install everything that exists in the backend folder. So now we will have the node modules folder, the package log, package JSON, server JS, and everything. Okay, everything is now, like, all the libraries that existed in package JSON have been installed. Okay, perfect. So that's our backend. We also need to have this .env file, right, with these two things. So I'm going to copy this, copy whatever we have, and I'm going to say nano.env. So this should create a .env file, and I'm going to paste the values that we had. Now to save it, the best way to do it is you do Control X. Control X, it asks save modified buffer. Yes. File name to write .env. Yes. Like, you just hit enter, and that should have created a .env. So now if I ls, should I show? Maybe it's hidden. How do I see hidden files? Not sure. Should be there for sure. I created it. So I'm going to go with yes, it exists. Okay. Okay, so we have now the backend folder. We have installed everything. We have created the .env file. What's next? Well, we need to start our server. And the way we are going to do it is by using pm2. So I'm going to say pm2 space start, And what is the name of file? The main file is called server.js, and we will call it backend. So as you can see, it has successfully started. Okay, so it's going into this particular path of GHW MLH Cloud Week, which is my repository inside the backend folder, and it has started this server.js. Status is online, user is Ubuntu, and that's it. So we should also save this configuration. So we can do something like, okay, let me share the first command. So this is assuming that you have followed exactly the way I have done it. So you have to do this. Then you have to run the command of pm2 save to save this configuration. So it has been successfully saved here. And you can do something called as pm2 startup, which means that every time you start the system, it should automatically start this. So init system found, and to set up the startup script, copy paste the following command. So it is giving me this command. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste that, and I'm going to hit enter. Then it says freeze a process, command successfully executed. And to freeze it, you have to do pm to save. And I think that should be it. Okay, so now if I go over to my server, this was the server. And if I go over here and I go to the port of 5001, hi GHW. So this is the IP address of my system. And on this particular port, the system is up and running. Okay, so /API/books should show me one book that we created, right? So congratulations, we have successfully started our backend on our own machine, which is available to everyone in the whole wide world. So there's a very good question. What's the difference between this type of hosting versus the one I showed earlier? The difference is, let me come back on screen. So the difference is how much control do you want? Okay. The one that we are doing right now is where you control nearly every aspect of it, except for installing Ubuntu. You control which apps should be installed on Ubuntu. How do I want the server to run? Which, like, should I use PM2 or should I use any other server? What do I do? How do I monitor? How do I log? So this is kind of what you do in a DevOps world. Okay, if you are familiar with the term, this is what DevOps engineers do. They set up these systems where they monitor everything. Whereas with Railway, it's a platform as a service. So what they mean is, uh, the folks at Railway, they have installed everything on machines, multiple machines. All we need to do is go over to their website, say that, oh, I want to run my Node.js backend, and Railway will figure out the rest. Okay. So one is like a service that you get. Someone has already done the hard work. And in this one, in the one OVH, you are doing the hard work. And when you go work in a company, you are supposed to do the hard work. Okay. So that's the difference. So if you're like learning personally, and you have very small apps that you want to deploy, go for Railway. If you want to learn the whole DevOps cycle, like we will also do the GitHub actions where we will write some code to say that every time we make a git push, you remember what we did in Railway? We made a git push and Railway would automatically start building and start deploying. That is not going to happen right now, but we will write the code for it. So you have more control over what exactly is happening. So you will also have more control over any errors that come up. You will know exactly what this error means, and you don't have to go to Railway to ask. You will be able to figure it out on your own. I hope that makes sense. So the CI/CD pipeline is actually the GitHub actions that we write, but overall, deploying on OVH Cloud is like deploying on the cloud. That's the whole point of our 3 sessions. Deploying on cloud, where you only get a bare bones machine and you set up everything on your own. Okay, so thankfully our server is up and running. And did I share the link to it? Yes, you should be like able to visit this link and you should be able to see our server. Okay. Now let's also set up the front end. The back end is nice and simple, but front end is where it gets a bit tricky. So I am going to cd dot back, and now we have to go inside the front end folder. Then we are going to run, like if you see ls, there's package lock JSON, but it does not have the whole what do you call the node modules. So it means we need to run install. So npm install should install everything. It also has the whole caddy file and everything, which we will remove eventually. So npm install is done. So now if I do npm run build, okay, also let me like ls. So there's the node modules now. Now we will do npm run build, which should create the build, the dist folder. Okay. So if I do ls, there's the dist folder. The dist folder internally has like all our JS files, CSS files, and everything. We have used Vite to build it, minify it, not very understandable. Exactly same. It looks exactly the same as what it looks here. Like CSS like this, JS like this, and index.html like this. That has been created. Now this part is going to be very like interesting. So I want to test this. So sudo dash cp, that is copy recursively the dist folder, everything inside the dist folder, to /var /www/html/. Yep, that's done. So what have I done? And if I do ls /var /www/html, yeah, so this is what has happened. What we did was we copied over everything that exists inside the dist folder, which we created after build, to this particular path. Why? Because that is from where Nginx will actually serve our thing. So like once we write the code, you will understand it better. So let me actually give this to you. Yeah, it's same, right? So you have to do this to copy over everything from the build folder into the Nginx path from where it is going to be served. And now what is, like, we need to make some configuration changes in Nginx as well. So sudo nano /etc /nginx /sites -available /default. So this is from where Nginx will serve everything. I want to comment out everything that was written previously. So I'm going to put hash. So as you can see, it changes color a bit. So that is all the comments. Excuse me. So hash there, hash here, hash here. I'm commenting out whatever Nginx had given me because I want to write my own, and they have like too many comments here and there. So once all of this is done, now I will write mine. So we will do like server, and inside this I will say like listen on port 80. Okay, so listen on port 80 because that is where, that's the default port that is always open. Then we will have server underscore name, and that should be the IP address of OVH. So that is like 51.89. So I'm going to copy this, but that is going to be the IP address of where like our server is up and running. Then we will have the, like, I'm adding a comment. So serve the front end. So on the location slash, which is the first location, the root location, I want to serve my front end from there. So I am going to say the root. You remember where we copied over everything? So slash var slash www slash html. So serve everything from there. My index is going to be index.html file, which, if you remember, existed. So folks who are watching the video later, you can actually check the ls and that will show. So try underscore files, $URI, $URI slash, and that should serve the index.html. And we can close this one right here. I will send this whole thing. So like, you don't have to worry. The second part would be to actually proxy the request. So proxy request to backend on port 5001, right? So that is where our backend was running. Okay. So I'm going to say location slash API slash, and anytime a request is sent where it is like on slash API slash, I want it to be proxied over to proxy pass http :// local host 5001. So locally our Node.js server is running on this particular port, right? So that is where we are proxying over the request to. Then I will say proxy underscore http underscore version, it's 1.1. Then some headers. So proxy underscore set underscore header upgrade http underscore upgrade. Now I don't think that I remember all this. I found this on the internet when I was setting up this session, that if you want to serve Node.js, then you have to add these things. So like a simple internet search should give you what I have here. And even the documentation actually. So like yesterday I was making one mistake when I was like preparing for this session. Instead of passing it from localhost, I was trying to do something else, and that was causing so many issues. And then we will need to close this one, and then we will need to also close this one like this. And now we do Control X, save the modified buffer, yes. On this particular path, yes. And we can test if this is a valid file by doing sudo nginx-t, and there is a problem. Unexpected this on line 71. So let's open this again, and there's some error somewhere. Oh, so here there's this empty bracket. Okay, so now I have removed it, and that should be it. So I'm going to do Control X again, save it, yes. On this path, yes, enter. And now if I test it again, there we go. Nginx configuration is successful. So let me open that again, and let me copy paste this whole thing. What is the copy command here? Copy is m-6. No idea. Also, where do we add it? We can add it on Replit, I think. That's the best place to put it. So on my backend one, or actually in my front end one, let me close all this and I can create a z.txt file for now, and we can paste everything right there. So I've written like change this to your IP address, like don't proxy to my IP address. I can change this to 111.222. So like that's how you will know that you have to change this to your IP address, and you can find this here. Okay. So with that out of our way, we need to also, I don't remember if I gave the sudo nano command. Nope, I haven't. So let me give you that. So this should, like, this is how you open the editor where you can paste whatever I gave you. And what else? To test Nginx, you need to do sudo nginx-t. That should allow you to test your Nginx configuration file. And if you get like okay and successful, that means your Nginx does not have any errors. And then you have to restart Nginx because you have made a change in configuration. You have to restart Nginx. So now if I give you this, that should restart Nginx as well. And with that, now if I go over to OVH Cloud, copy this, go over here, paste enter, there we go. Front end is up and visible. If I go on get all books, it's getting one. I add a new one. This time I'm going to add hello Nginx, hello from Nginx, and this is OVH, actually OVH Cloud. Okay, not a book of course, but it works. Okay, it works. So, and the just the forward slash basically meant that whenever someone visits the IP address, like at the root, you need to serve the front end there, so they should see the front end. So you can check it out right here. Okay, so the front end has been deployed, the back end has been deployed, and we have done all the configuration by ourselves. Now, the only thing remaining is every time we make a change, I want it to build automatically. So what can we do here? So I'm going to first delete a bunch of things. I don't want the caddy file because Nginx is going to handle it for us. I don't want this nix toml. And yeah, I think this should be it. Now, reload this. So don't want that, don't want that. We need to create a GitHub action. So you need to create a folder which will be called as .github. And inside that folder, you need to create another folder called as workflows. And inside that, you need to create a file called as deploy.yaml. Okay. Deploy.yml or YAML should also work, I think. So this is where we will write the code which does the CI/CD pipelining, okay, automatically deploys stuff. So the name will be deploy to OVH. I will say on push. So if someone makes a push to branch, which branch? On the main branch. So triggers the workflow on pushes to main branch. Okay, so next is what the jobs. So this is like very standard way of writing GitHub Actions. So inside the jobs, we will say build, and the build runs on, like which machine should it run on. So we will borrow a Ubuntu machine from GitHub. Okay, so the latest Ubuntu machine. The steps are going to be step 1. We will like give it name so that it's easy for us to see what's happening. So first is check out the repository, and the uses, it uses actions slash checkout at the rate v3. Again, this I actually found from GitHub itself. The second step is to set up Node.js. So set up Node.js, and it uses actions slash setup dash node at v3. With, we need to specify a node version. So I can say node version is going to be node 20. Okay, there's an error here. Okay, let's see at the end of it. So dash name colon, next one is install dependencies. Okay, and in that I will say run. It has to run a few commands. So the first command is going to be cd into the backend folder, because that's what we did. Remember the things that we did. We did a cd into the backend folder, and then we did a npm install. Then we came back to frontend folder. So cd dot dot slash, and that comes one back, and then we will go inside the frontend folder, and then we will do npm install again. So this has done the npm install in both the folders. Okay. Then once that is done, what's the next step for us? Well, it should be to build the front end, because backend is simple. PM2 takes care of the backend, but for front end, we need to do the whole build process. So I'm going to say name colon build front end. Okay. And what should it do? It should run the command. So first make sure that it is inside the front end folder. So cd into the front end folder, and then do npm run build. Okay. Then the next step would be to deploy to the OVH server. So we did a bunch of things. So deploy to OVH server. The first step that we did was we actually had to add our key, right? Our SSH key. So that's what I am going to do here. I will say SSH underscore private underscore key colon dollar 2 times curly brackets, and secrets is OVH underscore SSH underscore key. Now we are going to add this, not secrets colon, it's secrets dot. So we are going to add this SSH key on GitHub. Okay, we'll add it soon. And which SSH key will that be? It will be the public key. No, the private key. The private key that we have stored in our computer, that's also available on OVH. That's what we are going to use. So run, and then mkdir, and like this is something that I found like after so many experimentation and so many Google searches. Then you do echo, and then $SSH private key, which is this one. Okay, so $SSH private key, copy paste this into your tilde dot slash dot SSH slash ID underscore RSA. So this will be copied in the SSH folder of our OVH cloud. Then chmod 600, so give it the permission to execute, tilde slash dot ssh slash id underscore rsa, then ssh dash e scan dash h. Now what is our IP address? That's what we need to give here. So I am searching for that. Yep, there it is. This dash dash tilde slash dot ssh slash known underscore hosts. Then you ssh into Ubuntu at this IP address, and then you say mkdir dash p slash home slash Ubuntu slash temp. And why? Because this is where we are creating a temporary directory. Create temp folder. Okay, like again, I found this after experimenting a bit that you have to do this. Then you need to copy the whole front end thing. So scp that from the front end folder slash dist folder slash star, you have to copy that into this Ubuntu. Okay, Ubuntu this dot slash home slash Ubuntu slash temp in the temp folder that we created right now. Then after this is done, then you do ssh into Ubuntu at the rate this and some commands again. So sudo cp dash r slash home slash Ubuntu slash temp slash star, which is everything inside this folder, goes into var slash www slash html. Okay, we have done this if you remember. And after this is done, we do like remove the temporary directory that we had created. So slash home slash Ubuntu slash temp. And I think this should be it, other than this problem that it has here. Okay, there's a problem everywhere it seems, and I have no idea why. Oh, I think this should be here. Yep. Yep. And this should be inside again. And name is okay. Run should be inside. And all of this should be inside again. Name is okay. Run should be inside. And all of this should be inside again. N should be inside. Run should be inside. And all of this should be inside again. Perfect. So there we go. Sorted. So this is our GitHub. And sorry, not GitHub. Our whole whatever we were doing. Now I need to copy the SSH key. So if you remember the PB copy, so that is what I'm going to do. But instead this time, GHW SSH. Okay, so this time I had to copy my private key, and now, so like I am going to share this in the chat. So I had to copy my private key, and let me run that again. So it's copied over my keyboard. Now we go to our GitHub repository. Once I find it, you go to settings, you go to secrets and variables, actions, new repository secret, and this should be the same name that you gave here, which is OVH underscore SSH underscore key. And the secret would be whatever you added there, like whatever it's copied, the public key, and that should be it. So now if I do a git add all, git commit feature update GitHub actions, okay, and then do a git push. So this should actually, if I go over to my actions, it should start doing this whole build command, and it should start like running the job of deploying. So set up Node.js, install dependencies. So it was successfully able to go inside our repository, install the dependencies, deploy, and there is a problem. Public permission denied, public key. Uh, Interesting. Oh, this is wrong, right? It should be that GHW, UTGHW one. My bad. So now it's copied. Uh, so if I go over to my settings again, go to this one, go to actions, need to delete this one, OVH underscore SSH underscore key, OVH underscore SSH underscore key, paste this, save this, and let's make a quick small change in our front end. In the source in app CSS, I want to change the color of the button to be blue, and no, the text color. So background color to be blue and the text color to be white actually. Okay, so let's try this again. Git add, git commit, update actions again, git push. Let's see this time. Hopefully it happens. So the deployment part actually took a lot of time even when I was testing it. But other than that, any questions, anyone? Okay, so we are reaching somewhere. There's a command not found, which means I made a mistake in this. Okay. Sorry for this. Yeah, meanwhile, as I was asking, any questions, anyone? I really want to get this deployed so that you can see actions working. So let's see. Come on, this time. Come on. Let me try adding my public key. Maybe that's the problem. PB copy. Settings. Secrets variables. actions, delete this, delete. Okay, let's make a small change again on button colon hover. I want the background color actually to be red. Okay, yeah, coming back, we are like nearly out of time. There is a next session after this of Tetris. Okay, and I hope you all enjoy that. I am going to figure this out, and once I have, maybe I can. Yep, there it is. Still the problem. Still the problem, and I wonder why. Okay. I am at this point so confused as to why the permission gets denied, because ideally it should work if I have given it the key. Like, come on. Okay. I copied the things, but I forgot to change my this IP address. Maybe that's why. So this is the IP address 51.89.230.239. Yes. The sixth time, let's say if this is lucky. If not, I'll figure it out later and I can send it over to you all. As in, oh, I think it's done. Yes, it's done. Perfect. So now if I go over to our IP address, open it, there we go. Finally. Okay. So yes, it works, right? Okay, so finally, this is what needed to be changed. I should also make a variable for this so that it can be changed at one place. But this is the GitHub action that you need to make it, like make the CI/CD pipeline. So I can add a deploy.yml. There we go. Share it in the chat. We are like right on time. So I hope so far it has been helpful. You learned on how to deploy on a custom cloud on your own machine, the changes that you had to do, SSH keys that you had to set up. I had to, at the end, actually add my private key on GitHub. Okay, so that is very important. Add private key on GitHub. And yeah, that's it. So you have to add your private key on GitHub secret environment variables. get it working. CI/CD pipeline is up and running. Every time you make a push now, it should auto deploy, and you can see that here. Okay, so whatever changes that I did happened, and I did not have to go into OVH Cloud and do that manually. It is every time now I'm going to push will get deployed. Okay, the other things could be adding Prometheus and adding Grafana, but that is something I would say you'll have to now Google, unfortunately. And that's it. That's the end of everything from me. I hope you learned a lot. You enjoyed the sessions. You learned on how to deploy to Railway, how to deploy to OVH Cloud. And if there are no further questions, we can end the session. The code is available here. I mean, everything that you have, like, you know, everything that I have pushed. So you will have the correct git deploy.yaml, the backend, the front end, and everything. So you can have it from there. And you're welcome. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. It has been lovely. Please enjoy Tetris now. And I will see you in next GHW. Cheers. Bye.